If the financial sector does not involve itself, or the financial regulation does not get itself ready and align itself with the new developments, it's going to cause a lot of issues. And therefore, we need to get ourselves as regulators ready. We need to know what climate change related risks and impacts are and what is required from us.
Some of the challenges faced by MSMEs in transitioning to environmental friendly practices and processes, are one, funding. MSMEs oftentimes face the challenge of funding because credit-giving institutions oftentimes do not have MSMEs in their horizon. They do not have them in their plans at all in terms of the risks that MSMEs face for repayment. And so they are often not well served, not well covered. So funding is a key problem that MSMEs face in terms of leveraging environmental friendly practices. And secondly is also the capacity. If MSMEs do not have capacity even to look at the small areas that they manage, it's oftentimes difficult to take on administrative things that relate to environmental friendly practices, because this can be really resource intensive. And so they need that capacity, they need to leverage that capacity and the scale. Big companies oftentimes will have the funding and they will have the scale and they will have the staffing to be able to undertake or take on environmental friendly practices. But MSMEs are lean on the ground. They have very few staff sometimes and even expertise, and then the funding and capacity to undertake a lot of these things. So it poses a very difficult challenge for them. And so part of what can be done is to scale their capacity to undertake environmental friendly practices, because they keep struggling with areas. They struggle with funding, they struggle with expertise, they struggle with scope, and then it's difficult for them to take on the additional issues and challenges of environmental friendly practices. And so I've just elaborated on those challenges and how we can really help them, and part of helping them also be incentives, subsidies, and capacity building to enable them transit to environmental friendly practices.
The main challenge is, do they even know what climate change is? That is the very first step that we need to cross over. Do they know? So if they don't know, how do we capacitate them? The other challenge is, if they know, are they able, do they have the means and resources to assist them in the process of greening? If they don't know, how do we assist? If they don't have the resources, how do we then assist them to get the means and the capital that they need to facilitate their greening process?
What's needed to help MSMEs decarbonize their businesses is to provide incentives. They also need training, but incentives are very important. Like we have carbon credits, we have all of those that are in advanced societies where MSMEs are really incentivized to undertake, to decarbonize their businesses, to understand that businesses, and business practices have an impact on the environment. And so those incentives also are things like tax credit, capacity building, funding, and expertise, availability to resources that are global resources, networks of practice, and communities of practice that would allow them and spur them to take action. So MSMEs require all of that, first of all, to start, to begin to look at decarbonizing their business. Otherwise, they will continue to struggle within the small scope where they are, and then have very little incentive to really look outside, to look and see that decarbonizing their business really has value for the environment, has value for their business, has impact on livelihoods and all of that.